Good afternoon, everyone. It's Brooke with the Sawtooth Avalanche Center with your weekend update for December 29th, 2023. As a reminder, this is not a replacement for the avalanche forecast. Check out our daily forecast issued by Ben this weekend on Saturday and Sunday morning, both by 7 a.m. We're still tingling with our persistent problem, so let's check out all the details of what that looks like in different zones, different aspects, and different elevations. So let's set the stage for this week. Last Thursday on the solstice, there's a little bit of a warm up, and you can see those wet loose slides in the bottom right part of the screen here, two of which were a bit larger than you'd expect at D1.5s. Also, during this period of another high and dry week, we were able to produce some more facets and weaker grains near the surface. This looked like surface hoar in many areas, or more like near surface faceting in others, weakening the snow both on the surface and underneath. Looking at the danger in the forecast, a little more than 10 days ago, some of you might remember that we went down from considerable to a spicy moderate. We've been sitting at this moderate rating at upper and middle elevations in all of our zones since then. Even though we've gotten a couple of spritzes of snow since then, our persistent slab problem is still our primary concern. I think a lot of us who have been getting out, and even those who are just starting to get out, are kind of in the doldrums of this problem. It's getting quite difficult to keep ourselves in check and make smart decisions in the mountains with the same problem being on the forecast for so long. Even though our avalanche conditions haven't changed too much in the past week, the little spritzes of snow that we got, with up to 2 to 3 inches in our more favored northern and western mountains, and about an inch or less in our other mountains, still provided for some pretty fun ski conditions in certain terrain. Even though now is not the time to go ski the line that you probably want to go ski, there is good skiing to be found. There is riding to be had. We just have to remind ourselves that the winter is long and it's just getting started still. While temperatures remain mostly cool during the week this past week, it seems like we might get a little bit of a warm up, potentially going above freezing during the day-to-day on Friday. And we'll just have to see what the temperatures do to the snow surfaces over the weekend. Continuing in line with the logic that skiing can still be fun even if there's not the sickest line to go ski, the full moon came out this past week, and it provided for a really fun time to go view up in the mountains. Getting back into the specifics of the persistent slab problem, it can be quite hard to understand what it means for more days to pass with this sort of problem, and it varies between our different forecast areas. The overall message is that the likelihood of triggering these slides is going down in all of our zones. However, the consequences are still quite high. While talking about these avalanches that have not been happening that frequently can feel a bit abstract, a group of 4 of us went out to the Banner Summit Zone yesterday and decided to make a little more of a graphic representation of what we're talking about with likelihood and consequence.
Hey folks, it's Ben at the Sawtooth Avalanche Center. I'm out here on a recreational ski day, and I'm crossing this pretty hazardous looking creek here. The consequences here are low, but the consequences of triggering a large avalanche in our forecast area right now are pretty high. But the likelihood is low. And much like this thin sheet of ice that I'm standing atop of, it may not be the first rider across the slope who triggers the avalanche. But when you do, you'll be going into the drink or going for a nasty ride.
Carry on.
While on more solar aspects, the strong over weak structure to create these persistent slab avalanches will be harder to identify as a crust and facet combo. On more northerly aspects, you'll be able to see those weak, sugary facets towards the base of the snowpack that you've seen in so many of our other videos. So, heading into the weekend, our main concern is still our persistent slab. This avalanche problem, unfortunately, is not going anywhere, and with many days without loading, it's gotten to a point where the signs of instability like cracking and collapsing have been more and more isolated. While this sounds like it's good, because it means the snowpack is slowly becoming less reactive, it is a bit harder for us to believe that the problem's there, and we could be a little bit more tempted to make poor choices in the mountains based on this. If you take a harder look at this slide here, you can see that tiny little wind slab icon at the bottom of the page. It's there because you'll be able to still find some wind slab in isolated alpine terrain near bridge lines and in cross-loaded features. These wind slabs are unlikely to be large enough to cause much consequence on their own other than knocking you off your feet. However, there is a potential for a wind slab to break and then step down to the larger persistent slab below. Be mindful of these when you're traveling. So when you're out, there are plenty of informal tests to be able to see where this old snow might be lingering. You can use the back of your ski pole to probe carefully down into the snowpack and feel for the presence of weaker grains or facets down below. You also can dig a quick, hasty little pit on the skin track on your way up to see what the layering of the snow is like where you're traveling. Looking ahead into the weekend, we don't have any precip on tap, folks. Sorry to break that to you. But with that being said, there are still plenty of ways and plenty of places to get into the mountains and enjoy being out there. There's still soft snow to go slide and ride on. And for those of us who are a little more adventurous, you can link things up for a multi-sport sort of day. If that's not quite doing it for you still, well, add some weight to your packs, and if you get creative, the mountains are a pretty fun place regardless of the amount of snow that's falling out of the sky. Thanks for tuning in, and be sure to read the avalanche forecast. It'll be issued by both days, 7 a.m. this weekend.
I can gather all the news I need.